going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dawgs and Hawgs. We are out here at Wire Park yet again inside because it's quite cold out.
And you're a pansy.
That's right. I'll wear that proudly on my chest. Absolutely. If I'm not sitting out in 40-degree weather, I will wear that proudly. But Russ, it's not just us tonight. We got some special guests on. So if you want to intro them,
I got it, man.
And I'll bring them in. You let me know.
All right. Well, we call this show Dawgs and Hawgs, right? And the idea was we talk football, we talk barbecue, but you get the word hogs and then you start thinking about big boys. And for me, this entire show, it's fun. I enjoy doing it. But, man, when I can connect with guys that are part of the Brotherhood of Georgia football with me, it's special. When I can connect with guys that were offensive linemen at the University of Georgia, it's special. When I can connect with guys that were part of the first group that I was ever with, that we started games together, we slept in the same hotel rooms together, we traveled together, we were in every meeting together, is really special. So I put out a few calls today. A few of my boys come in. You're about to bring them in. None of them are good looking. They're all ugly. None of them are smart. I'm the smartest of our bunch, but we're about to bring them in, man. I'm super excited. These are three of my best friends in the entire world: Bartley Miller, Josh Brock, and Big Dan Inman. There's Bart, top right, Brock, bottom right, and Big Dan, bottom left. Hey, put that. Nobody can see it. You're blurred out. You're already messing it up.
It's okay. I just know none of us are smart. That's wrong.
Well, let's also clear this air, right? So Russ talked about sleeping in a room together. You may have roomed with Russ. You didn't get any sleep when you slept in the same room with Russ. It was a pack of chainsaws cutting down in the Amazon rainforest. That dude snores so loud.
Understatement.
Heavyweight champ, Bobby. They used to literally draw straws about who had to be my roommate of it. So it's been all of them at some point. Bartley was the dummy that I end up with on the rooms on most of the away games, and we got in a fight at 2 a.m. one time in a hotel room over it. But that's neither here nor there. But hey, I'm excited to have these boys on tonight. They were all talking about, man, what are we going to talk about tonight? And we've got some things we're going to talk about. Bobby's going to run us through a little bit of topics, a little bit of questions. But I appreciate you guys on here. You all know that I am the best looking of the four of us. Everybody is very confident of that. Josh is now the lightest of us.
That's a fact.
Bartley and Dan both still look pretty chunky, but we're all here.
I'm over 330.
Hey, listen, I had we went to Athens to watch some softball about a month or two ago when they were doing their fall season, and I had Carter, my oldest daughter, one of her buddies came with us, and we got in the car after they met Big Dan, and they were like, "Mr. Josh, I thought you were big. You're tiny compared to him." And I was like, "Well, babe, listen, I'm 60 bills lighter than I was when I played, but yes, Big Dan's a big boy. He comes by the name honestly."
So, it was fun, Bobby. Like these guys right here, we were all part of the first group in 03. Because they're all in the same class. They're all the class of 02 when they first came in, that 2002 freshman class. So I was a year older, and I was one of only two linemen in that class. When all these boys came in, like these were my boys right here. In 2003, I was the oldest offensive lineman we had, and I was a redshirt sophomore. So these three jokers right here were my two guards and a tackle. Now, we rotated in. We had Big Max that rotated in at guard and tackle with us. Had Ken Shackelford, a couple other guys. But these are my dudes right here. But does anybody remember the number of sacks we gave up in 2003? Do y'all remember the number?
47. Yeah. 47, and because I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it because, the Coach Callaway immediately goes, 22 are on those backs.
No, 28 O-line sacks. It was the other ones were on the running backs.
Get Thomas Brown on here. Get Tyson Browning on here.
Yeah.
See how many linebackers that guy can block.
Seriously. Was he going to talk him to death?
Him and Michael Cooper had no idea what pass blocking was about. Love those brothers to death. They're my boys. No chance.
Man.
It was tough to start. We had young backs, but man, it was fun. We had some stinking time together, dude. The bad part about it is we only have an hour, and we also are not going to be able to go through a lot of the stories that I wish people could hear because our kids watch some of these shows, and there's some things they don't need to know about what Daddy and his buddies did back in the day. But yeah, this is fun. All right, first, let me start with a question.
Go ahead.
When y'all were in college, if you could have got an NIL deal with a business, who would you have signed up with to be your NIL sponsor?
Hagen.
Copenhagen. Easy. All right.
Big Dan's was Wild Turkey without question.
Yeah, Miller Lite, Wild Turkey, any of them.
But he's going Copenhagen. I like that. All right.
I think with the grief you guys gave me, it would have been some like men's clothing shop. I was always the well-dressed one. Maybe country club. Maybe a country club's NIL deal. I don't know.
Brothers, medium only. I like it.
Yeah.
I'd say for me probably 3M bandages because I felt like I was in a bandage 99% of the time. That'd be pretty good, right?
I was Bulldog Diner. Mr. Bob, God rest his soul.
Mm-hmm.
We can't admit it. Now we can admit it because
now we can because now we all had an NIL deal with Beechwood Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that was an NIL deal. What are you talking about?
Wawa's Cafe.
That too.
Mr. Bob Rushton, bless his heart. How many meals did any of y'all pay for at Bulldog Diner?
If we did, it was like $3
for everybody to eat.
No. The real question is how much money did we make Wild Wing on 2 for Tuesday nights?
Seriously, I know
everybody came when we were there. It's hilarious.
The massacre. There was wings everywhere. I mean, I ate 40 wings, 3 high lifes, and an appetizer. That is a lot of food. Can you imagine? Like,
on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday, a random Tuesday.
Wings now. It's like
we could do this for a while. That's a fact. Me and Brock went to Crystal one time, and Brock was at the cash register for Raiola. He said, "I'll take a sack full and 4 chili cheese pups." He looked at me and said, "What do you want?" She's like, "What?" He's like, "No, that's just fine." That was 12 crystals and 4 chili cheese pups. And you can look at Bartley's cheeks and tell that he's eating plenty of his life. So
I was gonna say, I was thinking Bartley looked very slender.
He looks
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. And I love your mustache.
Hey, thank you, man. I messed up my goatee. I nicked it and I had to shave.
All right, Bobby. Get them on track, man. We got a lot of stuff I want to talk about tonight. Man. I want to hear these boys talk about it. We could do this like we're in the backyard all night.
I was about to say, I don't know if I want to get on track. This is great. This is enjoyable. Just getting.
Well, let's go ahead, guys. How about we do kind of our hot take, our quick questions,
like rapid fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let them answer them. Can you go to that? And we'll talk about the other stuff as we go. But this is the stuff people are here for.
Yeah.
I'll start.
Okay.
All right. Your favorite road game you ever played in when you were at Georgia?
I keep getting calls, man.
Easy.
All right.
LSU 03. And we lost the damn game. God.
Yeah.
And the reason is not because of the game. You're right. We lost the game. We beat their tail up and down the field. The irony of that is if we put the ball in the end zone in 2003, we win a national championship because we don't play LSU in the SEC championship game and get rolled.
Pro Bowls, blue coverage, and late Skylar Green caught the thing in the back. Tim Jennings.
That far.
They did 3 Pro Bowls. And
hey, by the way, I looked back at this the other day. I love Billy Bennett as much as I can love a kicker. But I think he missed 3 field goals in that game.
I think it was 4, wasn't it? No, it was 3.
It was 3 or 4.
And then we're backed up, and Greeny got hurt and came out, and Shock came in, and they brought the absolute house.
The ground shook.
Safeties.
I mean, it shook. But that wasn't my favorite part, though. My favorite part about what makes it so favorite to me is that human beings stopped a state patrol-led motorcade because they rushed in front of the buses.
There was an old lady flipping off.
And this old guy on a walker with a stogie a foot long hanging out of his mouth. He can't even stand up straight, but buddy, he is giving us the bird when we're going by. And I got respect for that.
Little kids flipping you off, man.
That was great. All right. Who's the best player you ever played against while you were in college?
David Pollock.
Is that everybody's answer?
No. Right. I'll pick somebody from another team because he kicked my tail up and down the field in Lexington, Dwayne Robinson. He was drafted like 3 or 4 overall right behind Sully in the 03 draft. He was good.
He told me in 02 when I was a true freshman.
He got free love. He got free love to come back in.
Yeah. He said, hey, Miller, you better get out of the game because I'm going to kill you.
He said he had
free love back in.
He didn't know veins are coming, man.
Yeah, dude, that dude was 320 pounds, and he had veins all the way down his arm. He put his hand in the dirt, and I went, oh, boy.
Yeah. Hey, 73, go bring Bree Love back in.
we were beating them pretty bad. I don't remember the score. Somebody in the comments can look it up. I think Roddy could probably find it for us, the 0-2 Kentucky game. We're beating them pretty good. So all of us scrubs got to go in. And I mean, literally, we go in, and Dwayne Robertson looked at Bartlett and said, hey, 73, you better go bring Breedlove back in the game.
Tell Breedlove to come back in.
Bartlett looked at me like, what are we going to do? I'm like, bro, I got nothing.
Factual. Slide protection is what we're going to do.
Hey, bro, what was the game that I was talking to the guy, and you're like, hey, Dan, can you stop? Like, I was talking to
everyone. I mean, which
that was every game, Dan.
I know. But
we don't need them any more angry than they already are. Shut up, Dan. Like, just be quiet.
Like, Dan, would you stop?
We'll be in victory formation, taking a knee, and Dan's talking trash to the nose. The only person, by the way, who's in danger in a victory formation is the center, because they're trying to pound the center to make you fumble the snap. And Dan's like, hey, 98, you're blankety blank. Everyone's all by the mouth, and he's 8 yards out there.
Hey, can we just say this though? And guys, I think you back me up. I mean, can Russ quit complaining about being a center? I mean, in our offense, you had help the whole game, right?
Roger.
One of the two of us behind you, helping you out. It was the safest place in America. I wish I could have snapped. They tried me there, but I couldn't snap the football.
Hardest position on the field.
Yeah.
Roddy pulled up the score for us. Final score was 52-24.
Yeah, what's that fourth quarter saying up there? So it was, we beat them. We all got some playing time. That was one of the first games that all of us actually kind of got to play together, I feel like. So that was fun.
Together, yeah.
So y'all can say y'all and take me out, because I redshirted 02.
Dan redshirted too, but he was there in 03. And by the way, y'all talk about the LSU game, which is fun. My favorite game I've talked about on the show before was actually 03 Tennessee, where Sean J picked the ball up, went 94, 95 yards to the house.
Oh,
and do y'all remember the second half of that game? Do y'all
Yeah.
remember what they told us?
Silent.
They were leaving. Fans were leaving.
What'd they say, Russ?
We're going to run the ball, and then we're going to line up, and we're going to run it again. And then we're going to run it again. And then when they think we're going to pass it, guess what? We're going to line up, and we're going to run it again.
He called me tonight.
Hey, to this day, if you ask my dad what was his favorite game of all the games that we played in, that's number one. And most of it's got to do growing up in North Georgia, and when we were growing of age before we came to Georgia, Tennessee, you couldn't escape orange and white up here where I live in Cartersville. It was everywhere. And so when we won that game and they were running everybody out of the stadium, my dad said it was the best thing, man. He walked out underneath that big old T, lit him up a stogie, and just stared at the Tennessee River while we were kicking their butts inside.
That was a bad defensive line, boys.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was one of the worst defensive lines we played.
I had to block Dave Hill and Marcus Spears. I remember looking at the scouting report, and it's like 6'6", 290, 6'7", 290. I'm like,
well, you're back to LSU. He's talking about Tennessee.
I know, but I'm talking
Hey,
about
they might have had the worst defensive line, but they did have two All-American linebackers on the same linebacking core on that team. Kevin Simon and Kevin – there were two Kevins. Yeah. Kevin Simon played for the Cowboys for a number of years.
Hey, going back to the LSU game, though, that defensive line was legit.
Nasty.
They were loaded.
Kyle Johnson had the longest career of all of them, and he just retired from Buffalo.
Yep, that's right. I had Chad Lavallee. You talk about it was an easy night for the center. That was not, because we were sliding a lot, and I had him one-on-one, and when we went to Seattle or Tampa, and Chad Lavallee was the best player I ever had to play against one-on-one. Like, that was a dude.
Hey, true statement. But true statement, when we got the scouting report and we found out that dude was a prison guard before he came back to LSU, what was your first thought?
He was like 24 years old when we played.
Oh, my God.
Well, the crazy thing about Chad Lavallee, too, is like his body looked like a melted candle. Like, he didn't have a good body.
I mean, he could have talked him to death.
Well,
I looked and like Dave Hill, 6'7", 290. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah, but listen, I'll tell you this, because I think I was the only one on this call that the best defensive line, period, was at Alabama in 02. You line up across the line from Kenny King and Jarrett. What was it? Jarrett guy, I think it was his last name. Those two
Baby Brian, big.
They had Antoine Odom at a defensive end too. Oh,
I whooped Odom's butt though when we played him at home.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun, man. Like, again, we got stories we could do for this days. I'll finish on this and we can go to a different topic. But you talk about that Tennessee team up there, and people think about how serious it was, and you're all locked in. We played Tennessee when they had a Samoan nose tackle named JP Mapu. And for 2 quarters, him and Bartley talked about their pregame meal.
Hey, that's nothing like Mo Mitchell, though. Mo Mitchell walks up to the line, big 6'8", 360 for Florida, be like, "Hey, Russ, what's up, Russ?" Had the highest pitched voice of the biggest dude I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, that guy, we got so deep in the conversation during that game. I asked him if his mom and dad had come to the game, and he said, "Yeah, they're right up there. They were right behind the goalpost." I'm telling you, his dad took up 3 seats. I mean, he was the biggest man I've ever seen.
He's the biggest.
He was such a nice dude, though. He really was.
Yeah, Mo Mitchell. Mo Mitchell was a guy that went to Florida, played nose tackle at Florida. We recruited him. He would have been a year behind these guys as a tackle coming out, and I was his main recruiter on his official visit. Callaway had me on him. I was calling him, talking to him, trying to get him here, and we thought we had him. He told me the day before signing day he was coming to Georgia. This is back when NIL was not legal, and something happened overnight. He changed, so we knew Mo Mitchell. He'd been to visits with us, hung out with us, and all that. They moved him to nose tackle. He didn't have good enough feet to play tackle at the end of the day. And we played that game. He was 6'8", 360. He wasn't a very good player, but he had a broken hand. He had a club on. And most of the time, they give me a hard time because they help me a lot in pass protection. Usually at pass pro, the center is either helping the guards. You help one side with your body, one side with your eyes. Or if there's a nose on you, one of those guys is typically helping you. And I had to call the majority of the time to call one of them to help me, which was always great. So I could bring them to me. But every now and then, they'd be in a 3-man front, and they'd bring pressure on the outside, and those guys had to do what we call Molly Sally out. So the guards are here. They both had to kick out away and get the outside guys and come back. Florida blitz. I was with Mo Mitchell one-on-one. He had a cast on his hand. He went like this and went, yeah, and hit me right in the side of the head. This is before concussion protocol was a thing. I was like, hey, you got me, Mo.
Hey, let me say, though, if we go back to favorite games, when we went up to Clemson, the first game of 03, right? And, guys, we had been through, and just going back into memory and kind of talking about this makes me think about it. I mean, you got to remember in 02, right, that offensive line was legit, right?
Yeah.
I think we forget how good they were. But, George Foster and Stench and, Kurt McGill, Breedlove, all those guys, I mean, they were studs, right? Alex Jackson, et cetera. And I remember how hard a summer we had, right? Because we were a bunch of young guys, right? And Callaway pushed us. I mean, I know he pushed me, right? And there were days when we were like, what are we doing? But I remember walking into that huddle the first series of that Clemson game and looking around and being like, all right, boys, let's go to work, right? And then DG, third play of that game, throws that bomb to Fred Gibson. We get up on the board, and then we beat them like a drum.
Oh, I thought you were going to say what Greeny said when he came back to the huddle.
No, don't leave that out.
Can't say that.
Greeny came back to the huddle. Greeny was not a rah-rah guy. Wasn't a big talker. He said, boy, I just took a out of that ball. We're like, what? Greeny just say. So, yeah, that was awesome. I agree. That was one of the hottest games we ever played in, but that was the first game I think that we actually felt like we belonged in the SEC and we could play.
Yeah.
Brock was a little bit different than us. Brock is a true freshman in 02, played a lot. He was part of the Auburn game where Michael Johnson got the 3rd and 16 down to the back of the end zone. He was into that game, playing a lot. He was a rotational guy, some banged up. He ended up starting. You started some in 02.
I started 5 games that year, yeah.
Yeah. So, but then that next year, because I was hurt in 02, I cut my hand. Bartley and Dan redshirted. Bartley played a little bit, but not much. So 03 was really our first year of the 3 of us, along with Dennis Rowland and Max Jean Gillis.
That was my first start.
Yeah. So it was awesome, man. Like that was, I think that was we realized that we could play in the SEC and in big time college football.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, I had to snap field goals that game. You don't remember?
You were the long snapper?
Yeah, you don't remember? That's why it was 30 to damn nothing. It should have been 31. The last one got played. It was a 12-play drive. The last one got away. It was damn high. I mean, I was hurting, man. Yeah, you don't remember that, Brian?
I didn't know you say it.
Now that you say it, I remember the ball rolling back there like a kickball pitch. Yes.
No. The last one that about hit Billy Bennett in the face mask. It was like shotgun. Yeah.
All right,
Like,
Bobby.
All right. Well, I'm waiting. You know what I mean?
Got, man? What you got?
You never know who's going to chime in here next. So, I don't know. I mean, we got some Georgia football that we'd want to talk about a little bit. So, obviously, some of the latest news is you mentioned NIL a little bit.
Yeah.
We want to talk about NIL on the show for sure.
Yep.
And a big name that has been swirling around with UGA football and potentially now going to Nebraska is Dylan Raiola. What are you guys' thoughts on Dylan Raiola in this age of NIL and throwing money at kids who aren't even in college yet, who are like, come to my school? I mean Dylan Raiola literally moved from Arizona to Buford to go to high school here so that he could be close to the school that he was going to go to college for. Yeah, I mean, just talk about the whole entire Dylan Raiola, NIL, stealing kids before they even get to college. What's going on with all that?
All right, I'll kind of open us up with this because I've got thoughts. First off, and none of these guys will do it because I know how they operate, and we will all be on the same page with this. Like, I don't hate Dylan Raiola, by the way, and I hope he signs with Georgia.
Yeah.
By the way, next week he may sign with Georgia, but let me say this: I think that we need to realize that a true freshman quarterback is not going to decide the fate of this team over the next 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely.
If you go back and look at some of these top guys, the number 1, number 2 quarterbacks in the classes, they sometimes pan out, sometimes they don't. And, Raiola, they're saying now that it seems wanting to be that early playing time stuff in Nebraska is what's driving him there. And whatever, man. If that's what he wants to do, that's fine. Let him go. Georgia is going to build their team differently. And Dylan Raiola would love to have him. He'd be a great quarterback here, would be awesome for what we do. The NIL thing, to me, like, I like NIL. NIL is made, by the way, for Brock Bowers to go out and sign a deal with the biggest law firm in the country saying, hey, here's my face on a billboard. It's made for Carson Beck, who was a star this year, to come and get a deal with Zaxby's or Chick-fil-A or Popeyes, or I'm just naming chicken places now. whoever he wants to. Yeah, I would eat. So it was made for that, for guys that have earned it on the field to be able to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness.
Right.
It's turned into nothing but a pure recruiting tool. And that I don't like that. I don't know how you regulate it. You can't put the cat back in the bag. Like, it's out now, and there's going to be no fixing it anytime soon. But I hate that part of the NIL.
Yep.
Yeah, Russ, I agree with it. So to me, I'm a huge fan of NIL. I think ultimately when they figure out and it's stopped being used for recruiting tools and basically free agency at the college football level, I think ultimately it would be a good thing because I think you're going to see higher graduation rates because kids won't be so in a hurry to get into the NFL to make a living for their families. But to me, the thing that I think about, and I won't mention his name because all of us know who he is. We all had a teammate that showed up on a bus, Greyhound bus in Athens, and it was my job to go pick him up that day from California. Guy rolls off the bus with the clothes on his back, a backpack, a hotspot, and a bag full of ramen noodles, and that's all he's got, right? But at the same time, too, though, he's coming to play and is on the face of every recruiting magazine there was in the country at the time and all those different things. So to me, NIL will be a good thing for guys like that to be able to at least receive some financial compensation, because you remember – Coke cans used to cost 65 cents out of a Coke machine back then. And if a UGA alumni had bought any one of us a 65-cent can of Coke out of a Coke machine, that's an NCAA violation. That's idiocy and needs to be removed, and it is now. But I think ultimately it'll get worked out, but I like NIL in general.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Dan.
No, you got it. Go ahead, Bart.
So, obviously the problem, the reason for NIL was, hey, and David Pollock's probably the greatest example when we were there, but obviously he had a brand, right? They were selling 47 jerseys all over the place, right? And the whole intent, right, is that player gets an opportunity to share in some of that revenue. It's not all going to the school, et cetera. That makes common sense to me, and it seems like a fair thing to do. It also makes common sense to me to allow guys that are successful in college to get paid, because to Brock's point, right, there was a rush to get to the NFL for a lot of guys because of the financial situation they came from, right? And this allows them to now stay in school, get their education, right, take care of their bodies, not push it, right, and still have a future. So I like all those parts of it. The problem is, though, we're now dealing with really professional athletes without contracts, right? And that is a slippery slope. And what's going to happen because of litigation around this, and really what the law said is they're going to have to regulate this with the market. And what I mean by that is how many boosters are going to continue to write checks, right? How much money can they continue to pay these kids? Will that slow down? Will it pick up, et cetera? I think the thing that's sad about it for me, and I take a kid like Raiola, for example, look, that kid may have a great college career, maybe a great pro quarterback, right? And good for him. He'll be successful no matter what. But if that doesn't happen, right, and he doesn't make it to the NFL, I know for me, I was making a decision about where I wanted to go to school, about where did I want to live after I got done, right? And what network of people did I want to have? And so for me, Georgia was a no-brainer, and I got great advice through that process of I knew I wanted to live in Atlanta, and there is no greater network in Atlanta or in the state of Georgia than the University of Georgia. And so for me, it meant much more than just about football. Now, I wasn't a five-star, prodigy, but I do worry about guys making decisions because now they're chasing the money, and I get it, right? But there's going to be some consequences to that for a lot of guys who don't make it long-term.
Do you know how good of an NIL deal you could have got from like Manscaped to be able to shave your back all during college? I mean, if they saw that thing, shave it off. I mean, you would have been. They'd have paid Bart big time.
Yeah,
man, Bartley, that was beautiful. Though I'm gonna say you're right on it. And here's how I feel about it. I do think they should be compensated, but here's what I think: you should put the money away, because I think as a college student. As a football player, like, you learn a lot about life. I mean, you learn how to live, you learn how to, scrape, and these guys are getting a lot of money, man. And I think they should put it away. And then if they make it to the NFL, if they need the money, they did. If not, donate it back. And then that could be a scholarship for a walk-on or something. I mean, here's what I'm scared of. Is these guys living this lifestyle, and then when it's done, kind of like what Bartlett said, when it's done, what are they going to do, man? 1% makes it to the NFL.
So, Dan, I've never thought about this. Good job, Daniel. I was going to ask you, could you spell litigation at where Bartlett said a while ago? But you make a good point. Like, what if you did like something like deferred money with them, where you come up to where it's, you get $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month, whatever it may be. Then your NIL is put off until
some of them are. Some of them are. A couple of the kids that I know that are in school that have those things, and none of them are football players. They're other sports. But that is how some of them are structured. Is it's not necessarily a lump sum. It's set up on a payment basis, just like you're getting a paycheck.
Yeah, but to be fair, guys, we played with guys, right, in college that literally came from nothing. I mean, your point, Brock, they had nothing. And I was blessed to come from a family where I had, I didn't go without when I was in college. But there's a lot of these families, man, that this is it's life-changing, right? I mean, you're talking about quarterbacks, the going rate's now, $2 million, right? For a top level quarterback.
Yeah. Speaking of Raiola, Matt Rule's press conference just a couple of weeks ago, prior to the SEC championship game, he kind of laid out there the offer that he's going to give this kid, saying, that's what it takes to get a top tier quarterback these days.
Yeah, but think about this, man. They get so much more than we got.
Oh,
what they have. We got, we got Powerades and salt tablets and.
Well, let's be honest too. Part of this is we all. No offense to Kennesaw State and Appalachian State, we'd be playing there now because we're tiny compared to these dudes, man. I'm telling you, it's just a different.
I'd be still playing.
Dan's the only one big enough that would still get recruited.
That's a fact. Dan's a guard now at his height.
Think about the per diem, man. We got $10, $15 for a Sunday meal. Look at what they get now. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They don't really need.
My biggest moneymaker in college was whenever you got kids on official visits. You got $150 for the weekend to be able to buy their food and all that. And we just went back to the apartment and played Halo and video games all weekend. I pocketed we'd order some pizza. I pocketed $130.
Now, hey, so I told this a couple of weeks ago. We talked about official visits and recruiting. Y'all remember, do you remember your official visit to Athens and all the trips that we're hosts on?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't official. It wasn't an official visit until you had dinner on Friday night at Charlie Williams. Now,
son,
Russ was my host.
Russ, that's right. I did get you. I was pretty. I bet I hosted those other two knuckleheads at some point. One of the times.
You didn't host me. Stinchcomb was my host.
I had Kirby Gill.
I remember I told Russ, I said, "Give me the money." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "The money they gave you. Give me the money."
Hey, so guys, back to the NIL stuff though. Look, the NIL deal's out of the bag, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we ain't putting that thing back in. I do think, and if I'm a college coach right now, having the portal open as many times as it is just crushing, right? Yeah. Because now we don't have contracts with these kids, right? We can't lock the kid down. So we pay these kids $2 million. They could just leverage it, right, for more money when they get another offer. And to me, I think the one thing the NCAA could do, which who knows whether or not they'll do it, but is to shut the portal down. Say, hey, you're going to be able to transfer after a season, right? And you can transfer. That's okay. But we're not going to have, 2 periods right now? Is that what it is?
Yep.
We're not going to have 2 periods. We're going to have 1. And then you're going to get the option to transfer again in the event you have a coaching change. But other than that, you can't. And by the way, this will also make schools think about whether they're going to fire a coach or not, too.
Well, it's screwed up right now, too, because of COVID, because everybody has an extra year of eligibility. And now they get so many more people are graduating. So you get the extra transfer as a graduate on there. Brock and everybody raising their hand.
I'm not raising. I was scratching Dan's raising.
So Dan, you're scratching. That's not what you say on there. All right, Dan, go ahead.
Okay. Interrupt. I want to say. But here's the deal, man. Think about this with the portal. All right. Tim Jennings wouldn't have got a scholarship.
No.
Thomas Davis wouldn't have got a scholarship because they were offers late. No offers, no anything. And so I think that's what's oh crap. I lost you. There you go. And so I think that's the biggest thing about the portal is it's hurting these guys that like Thomas Davis, Tim Jennings, these guys that have a good senior year and a coach walks in a season like that, that's taking it out because they're looking at the portal. They're not these high school kids that have a good year. You know what I mean?
By the way, two of the best players we played with.
5-star, 4-star, and they've been recruiting you, and you're just kind of an underrated guy. You don't have you don't have a chance. I mean, think about that. Tim Jennings. I mean, played in one of
our guys watching the show saw a comment a minute ago. One of our comments popped up. It was talking about we've got hopefully getting a preferred walk-on, a kid from Perry. He was a starting quarterback at Perry yesterday. Perry won state championship, and what was Perry? 5A? 4A. So I saw Perry win that. They look great, play great, kid played great. Colton Ginn. His last name is Ginn.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be preferred walk-on kid. George's offering him. But to Dan's point, that's a kid that would have potentially had Power 5 offers coming out. As maybe it would have been Georgia, Alabama, wherever, but he might have got, a Vanderbilt, a Kentucky. He might have got a Wake Forest, NC State. But now these schools what are they going to do? Are they going to pluck a kid who they see potentially and they hope can develop, but they're not 100% sure on? Or are they going to go get somebody that's played 2 years at another college, has a little bit of film on them, and they think it's a surer bet? They may think this other kid may be better, but you have no idea what he's going to be in college. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great point. And, I mean, they're going to have to fix it. I don't know how they're going to fix it. When COVID doesn't give everybody graduating a second transfer to be better, but I know I saw Roddy posting today there's a judge in Ohio that ruled today, like a temporary injunction, that basically said that student athletes can transfer as many times as they want to, and the NCAA can do nothing about it. They're trying to go to court over that. So, I mean, I think Bart said a minute ago, that turns into unrestricted free agency every year where the schools can do nothing about it. And look, the schools have had too much power for too long. The athletes have had no power. The NCAA has been a joke. They've got themselves into this. It's the NCAA's fault. They screwed us when we were in college. They screwed Coach Rick when we were in college. I mean, they just ran roughshod over so many people who were doing it right. And finally, it broke to the place to where they said, all right, just let it go. Do whatever you want to do. And now we're sitting here. Yeah. I mean, we all saw how many people do we see in college? Cam Newton, Auburn's going down. It was always Auburn was going to go down. And nobody ever went down for it. And now they finally just said, well, there you go.
Well, Barley brought up a good point earlier, and I think this is something that's going to happen, and it'll happen faster than the NCAA will will make it happen is the market's going to regulate it. You know, you give a deal like Quinn Ewers, and I know we'll drop a name. I mean, he reclassifies his high school year to be able to get to Ohio State so he can be a part of the team sooner. No, that was so he could get NIL money sooner, and then never plays it down for Ohio State, transfers back to Texas, but the full value of that NIL deal was paid to him in one lump sum. The market's going to correct that in a hurry, and businesses are going to quit doing those types of stupid things in a hurry. And so the NCAA better get in there with some sort of language, or schools, whatever pack gets created, they need to go in and do this thing now, because next thing you know, you're going to have musical chairs with kids out there looking for money. And not only are they not going to find money, they're not going to find scholarships or schools to go to, because all the scholarships will be taken.
Brock, I'm going to give this to you. Can you see the screen? We got Roddy the Bulls running behind it. Check that out. It's what you're talking about. Give your thoughts on that right there. Read the tweet.
So will not enforce. So as a result of today's decision impacting Division I student athletes, the association will not enforce the year-end residency requirement for multiple times.
Y'all see this? Who's calling me?
No, who is
Tyson Brown, and he heard me.
Tyson Brown.
Sorry.
I love Cuzzo. Time transfers will begin. Notify members. I mean,
first of all, Tyson wasn't in there to pass block. He wasn't, but he was in there to scat.
Good point.
Nice back pedal. But I mean, if you can't, I don't know. This is where, because you go back and we all make business decisions, and we know that where we go to school. Some of us go to school where we're diehard fans of our entire life, like Stetson Bennett, and some of us make business decisions based on where we may want to live afterward, or what network am I going to be associated with, or what school does give me the best opportunity to help me achieve what I want to achieve. So, to me, those things are super, super important when it comes to recruiting. And every time you see something like this, where some judge is trying to make it free willy-nilly for any athlete to choose to go anywhere they want to, I mean, NCAA's got to do something in a hurry. Now, that's asking a big body that doesn't like to do anything to do something. So,
Bartley, do you want to talk? Or you want to give it to Dan again? He's got his hand raised.
Give it to Daniel.
Okay.
Right.
So, out of these four guys, though, all right, Josh, Bartley, NIL, man, if they'd have gave me a lot of money, y'all have been good. But what about me?
We would have fun. We'd have had some fun weekends.
We'd have had a great time. But would I have been successful? No. I'd have probably done something dumb, done something stupid, and y'all wouldn't have. Y'all were, y'all got good heads. But that's what I worry about. I mean, look at these guys. I mean, you live this lifestyle, and then you come out, and then it's taken away. What are they going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How are they going to adapt to the real world, man? And that's what scares me. Like, it's because it's cold out there. Y'all know that. I mean,
yeah, there ain't no doubt.
Unfortunately, we're headed away from college football. I mean, I just don't see where this train stops, guys. I mean, I think we're already in semi-professional football where we are right now, and the truth is that guys start getting paid, and trust me, I don't think the law is going to do anything. The NCAA is not going to be able to do anything to shut this down. And so at the end of the day, I think it's a big question of what do we end up with, right? And I think we really could end up with really a professional football just at another level.
And you think about who's going to do something about it, and it's got to who is the NCAA? Who makes up the NCAA?
That's a great question.
It's the schools. It's the National Collegiate Athletic Association. So it's the schools that make up the NCAA.
It's the presidents of
the schools,
right,
which represents universities, right? So here's the problem. And there's a lot of people that have thoughts with we should do some sort of collective bargaining, some kind of profit sharing. Do you think for a second that Georgia's going to go share money with Vanderbilt? Do you think for a second that Clemson is going to go share money with Georgia Tech?
Well, hold on. They kind of already do with the TV revenue, but not the collective money for NIL.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You're not going to have the rich funding the poor. And at the end of the day, and I'm glad that we're part of the haves, by the way. We're one of the teams that is going to figure it out and make it happen. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to see the NCAA. It's already gone as we've known it from when we played 20 years ago. It's done. But I think what the NCAA looks like 5 years from now, I have no idea. It's going to be totally different. I think you're going to see this, and you're already seeing it with the super conferences. I mean, go next year, the Big Ten and the SEC are all that matters.
Yeah.
The ACC is about to be gone the next few years. I mean, those are the conferences that matter.
Yeah.
And those people are going to self-govern, and they'll come up with something that they agree on. And it's going to be poo-poo on everybody else.
Right.
The Middle Tennessee states of the world, the Tulanes of the world, they're going to have no shot because the big boys are going to decide how they're going to share the money, and that's going to be what happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
What power of the dollar, man? Like, think about $1 in the South, $1 in California. You know what I'm saying? The inflation. I mean, how much money's worth? So you're offering a kid this amount of money in California. Well, the cost of living, I mean, it's so much more in California. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, and that's where, like, I'm like, kids don't even think about it. And by the way, who's paying the taxes, by the way, when they get all this money?
Taxes in California property, or they
That's
way high.
Hey, listen, that 1099 bill hits different in February, or when you get that 1099 in January and February, that just hits different when you see that. And it's got, whoa, wait a second. Now I owe how much come tax time for the next year? And you know, the bad part about it is we're just talking about NIL at the NCAA level. The state of Georgia just followed suit with lots of other states across the country and passed NIL at the high school level. You know, a good friend of mine who's a head coach at Carrollton High School was a big proponent of it because his quarterback, which I don't think we can mention recruits that were actively recruiting, so I'll just say his quarterback at Carrollton.
Lewis?
Yeah, well, there you go. You said it. Juju Lewis.
Recruiting website.
Juju.
Well, Juju Lewis is out there, and, you know, Joey is almost going to lose him to another state because Georgia doesn't have NIL at the high school level. And this year, HBO has been following him, doing an behind the scenes on his life as a high school quarterback. And he's a sophomore.
How do you do that?
And I watched front and center Trevor Lawrence, the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, touch a field physically, specifically at the high school level, right? I watched it 4 years. I mean, the kid was a phenom, right? And those things, we're talking about money getting thrown at him at the high school level. So we're talking about 18-year-olds having a hard time with it.
Yep.
Juju Lewis can't even drive himself to school yet, and he's having a hard time.
Well, Barley can speak to this. I mean, he went to a high school that's been paying kids to come play there for 50 years.
Years. I mean,
Don't start, Russ.
Hey, listen, Donovan Tate, Bartley. Tell me, Maris. Tell me somebody didn't pay his tuition. And I love Donovan. Donovan's one of my good friends. But you tell me Marshall or Maris didn't pay for some of his school coming down there. Come on.
Look, we're just a bunch of soft private school boys whipping boys' butts all over the state. It's no big deal.
But the bad
Hey,
thing
we get blamed for it too at Cartersville. Don't get me wrong. That's why I say they're like everybody's like, oh, Trevor Lawrence grew up in Ackworth. Why did Cartersville pay him to come and play over there? We hear it too, so it's okay.
Well, y'all done it too. I mean, look, the well-funded.
No, Russ, good players come to tradition-rich programs like Marist and like Cartersville to put themselves in a situation to raise their status.
Thank you, Brock. Well said.
I'm not going to keep going on that because
my former baseball coach just got acknowledged for 700 career wins. He's in the Hall of Fame before he's even retired, and now he's at Buford coaching baseball.
And city schools recruit, but that's a side note. All right, Russ, move on. Next topic.
All right, next topic. I get this question because I forget who it was. Somebody in the comments brought it up as well, but this was a question I was wondering. It's Kirby Smart, when we go after recruits, right, we don't get into bidding wars that often, right? This whole Dylan Raiola thing, I'm not really sure the details of it, so there's rumors going around. We're not going to really talk about that much, but we tend to not get – there it is, Joshua Hammonds. Would you pay a proven commodity in Beck to return for 2024 or pay an unproven recruit for an uncertain 2025-2026 season? Basically what it boils down to. Are you going to pay, and not even for the scenario, it's not a Dylan Raiola or a Carson Beck scenario. Which one are you going to pay? It's are you going to pay the older guys on the team? Are you going to pay maybe a Tate Ratledge to try and get him to come back to protect the Carson Beck or another quarterback? Like, where are you going to spend your money? And it looks like that Kirby spends his, like the NIL money is spent reinforcing the entire team and some of the older guys that have been in the program. Is it time to maybe start allocating that money to entice some of these younger guys like a Dylan Raiola to come to the school?
I mean, if you asked me that question before we won 2 national championships and had a play away from being in a third, then maybe it's a different answer. I think Kirby's approach has been the right approach so far. It's proven that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've only got so many dollars to spend. The free market will ultimately regulate. I think Brock said that earlier, and that's going to be the answer that ends up getting it in the day. Like, there's not unlimited funds. Now, if Georgia wants the funds, Roddy talked about last week, Georgia doesn't have a huge NIL war chest. They'll find the money if they need it. I have no doubt about that. It'll come up. But you've got to figure out how you're going to allocate your dollars. And it's the same thing that the Patriots did for years and years and years. Tom Brady took less so they could get better players around him.
Right.
And that's what Kirby is going to do. If you get 20 really good players instead of getting 2 great players and 18 okay players, which team's going to be better? So they're going to spread the money around, try to build a complete roster with depth that gets you there. That's what Georgia's done. That's what Alabama's done. Those are the greatest, those are the top teams in the country right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes down going forward, because the alpha males that are super competitive, by the way, if you don't win another national championship next year or two, if you're Georgia, which is hard to do, and you see, let's say KJ Bolden is going to Florida State, or Dylan Raiola goes to Nebraska and they ball out, then what happens? Maybe you change your mind then. I think Clemson's having to change their mind some now with Dabo, the way he's gone about the portal the last few years. They're starting to have a different approach, being more aggressive. They're going to get guys from the portal. They're going to raise their NIL stuff. But, until you see somebody go out and just pay these top recruits out of high school and then have immediate success on the field, the Georgia-Alabama model is going to be the ones that persist and that win.
So maybe go after some more proven guys and maybe more heavily go after guys in the portals, what you're saying. Maybe throw your NIL money more that direction, or the guys who are on your roster now,
guys on your
make
roster.
sure that they're set before you go out.
Georgia takes care of the guys that have been here and done well. You don't think Cedric Van Pran Granger got taken care of this year through NIL?
Right.
And he should have. He was the best offensive lineman on our team all year long. And that doesn't mean, Amaris Smith, when we went out against Bama, that was one of the big turning points of the game. Tate Ratledge has been the man. Ernest Green's played well. Those guards have been played well. But Cedric Van Pran Granger, he was the bell cow all year long. And they took care of him. He came back, and he was a guy that came back, graduated, would have been a mid-round pick, and he elevated his stats in the NFL this year. He's a guy, by the way, who NIL was designed for, and it's going to benefit, and that's one of the beautiful success stories of it. But there's a lot of people that are going to get burned by it.
Yes, Daniel.
Raised.
All right, here's the deal. If you want to go to Nebraska over coming to Athens, go on, man. Like, I'm just telling you. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, you ever been to Nebraska? There ain't nothing there. And so if he wants to go to Nebraska, let him go to Nebraska. You do the best you can. You recruit him. If he chooses to go there, that's fine. But I don't understand how you wouldn't want to come to the University of Georgia. Like,
his dad played ball there. He's a legacy, and his uncle is currently a coach on staff there as well. So,
I mean, good, go on. But what I'm saying is, you can only do the best you can do, recruit. And if they want to go to Nebraska, I mean, it ain't a money thing, because I don't understand how you want to come here. I mean,
it's money now versus money later, right?
Like, Nebraska's got cornfields. I mean,
yeah, and cold weather. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how you wouldn't want to come here. And if that's the case, then go. And then we'll live to fight another day. I mean, there's always.
And very, very fortunately for us, Georgia is at the top, and they won the last 2 national championships, and they're in the New Year's Six Bowl again. So Kirby has earned all of us saying we trust you with it.
And you can't down to some high school.
I was texting Roddy this week when the Raiola stuff started kind of surfacing, and I made the comment to him. I was like, I think it's interesting because coaches are now, 3, 4, 5 years ago, if you lost a kid like Raiola, the week before signing day, what would the fan base have done? Like 5 years ago, if you lost Raiola, week before Sunday, he flew to Nebraska, what would the fan base have done?
They would have lost it.
Oh, everybody remembers Marcus Stroud tearing the Florida shirt and the Georgia G being underneath it, right? Florida fans lost their minds when he did that.
But now, what's the narrative with? I'm talking about Georgia fans specifically, like with Dylan Raiola. What's the narrative right now about why they're losing Raiola?
Because Carson Beck decided to come back.
Playing time and NIL. Those are the 2 things, right? That's what they're saying. But they're now saying more. I think my point is, I think the coaches like Kirby are getting a little bit more grace from fans. Not that Kirby doesn't care if we give him grace or not. Like, he doesn't give 2 rips if we give him grace. But now it's a little bit more like, well, It is what it is. Dan said a minute ago, you do the best you can do. You recruit the best you can recruit them. You lay your pitch out. You take care of them. You do all the things right. At the end of the day, you can't make that horse drink when you leave him to water. So I think they're getting a little bit more grace because of the NIL specifically. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We need to get Roddy to just tell us if Raiola's coming to Georgia or not. I know he knows. So
yeah, he's sitting in the lobby working on these comments right now. I see him shaking his
head. Says no. He says no. Don't air that part. He can't put that out yet. Got to go to the website. And see it. So,
He's got to make money.
It's going to be interesting.
So, yeah. Oh man.
But I mean, you look at like a Jacob Eason who came, recruited. He came and then left, ended up transferring. Like, I mean, it happens, man. And there'll be another one next year. Another quarterback, another big recruit. Like,
all right, go back to that last comment. And as far as people saying that, yeah, okay, all right. The good thing is I don't like ever coming hard at any of our fans or talking negatively about them. But if you don't put your name on it, I guess we could say it. Like nobody's going to go to work tomorrow and be like, "Hey, Frosted Truth, that was a bad take you had." But this is not a correct comment. It feels like UJ won't win another natty because of losing too much depth to the portal. And we are losing some depth to the portal. And there's a few guys in there, by the way, who you don't want to lose. But the majority of the guys that are going to the portal are guys that are never going to play at Georgia. And that's okay. We're not knocking those kids. A lot of teams are like, why didn't I don't even know how many Arkansas. Why didn't Arkansas have a ton of people going? Well, their guys were 2- and 3-star recruits that are just happy to have a scholarship and trying to finish out college. Georgia's loaded. They've got 4- and 5-star guys play behind other 4- and 5-star guys who are playing behind the 4- and 5-star guys before them.
Yeah.
And the 3-star guys that are playing end up being dudes.
It's a perfect example of that.
So
a 5-star guy who just announced last night that he's decided to enter the transfer portal. So.
Right. And I mean, and that's a scheme thing. He's probably transferring because of the type of defense we run and his skill set. Okay, great. No, I don't have no hard feelings for him, man. He played hard while he was here. Go out and do it. But I mean, Georgia's losing some depth, but they're about to sign the #1 class in the country. They're going to bring in guys from the portal that fit the specific needs they have, and they're building the program the right way. So we have not lost depth to the portal yet. That's going to significantly hurt us in the next 2 to 3 years, in my opinion.
Well, and a guy leaving isn't necessarily negative, man. Like everybody's like, oh, he's leaving. Like something's wrong. Well, maybe he's just benefiting himself. Maybe he's going somewhere where he can excel and Georgia's going to help him get there, like coaches and stuff. Like it's not always bad, I mean, you got a lot of guys playing and then there's a lot of guys coming,
We don't look at recruiting as a net effect anymore. And Russ, you just said it. I mean, yeah, people are leaving, but who are we bringing back in? Tell me where we stack up at the end of spring, ready to go into the summer, and tell me who's here. Tell me who's available. That's the net effect. And everybody wants to make the decision on whether or not Georgia's going to compete for a national championship in December the year prior. Sorry, that isn't how it works.
So, Bobby, I don't know if you got the list of guys in the portal already or not, but and again, I'm not banging the guys here, but how many of the guys that are in the transfer portal are part of the 2 deep for Georgia? That means first and second team. Okay. For anybody that's not clear.
Roddy has the list up right
there. It is right there. Darius Smith, don't know what happened to him. He went with the team half the year this year. Jonathan Jefferson, Brock Vandegrift was obviously in the 2 deep. Quarterbacks are different. Like he's got a shot at big NFL, make a lot of money, but he needs to be on the field somewhere. And Carson Beck is really good. But you go through the list. And these are all guys, by the way, who you can put DGD beside a lot of their names. They've been program guys that have worked hard, that have busted their tail and made plays when their number's been called. But they're behind other players that through whether it's injury, whether it's circumstance, no matter whatever it is, it is what it is.
Take Mekhi Muse as a perfect example for that. A guy who played really well for us this season, early on this season, punt return, kick return, doing all that stuff, made a name for himself, and now he's doing something positive. I agree with the whole DGD
well,
statement.
And if I'm not mistaken, Mekhi Muse is a non-scholarship athlete too, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
I mean, he's a preferred walk-on, so he gets an opportunity to go be a scholarship player somewhere else. And also, too, you look at this list, you listed Vandegrift there. It doesn't seem like it because he hadn't been there that long, but with dual enrollment in high school now, I mean, Brock Vandegrift is a graduate. He graduated and graduates this week, actually.
Yep, that's right.
So he is transferring just like many other graduates do. Christopher Smith, by the way, who helped us win a national championship, was a graduate transfer from the University of Alabama. So
Maury Smith.
When I was coaching with Coach Pittman at UNC Chapel Hill, and I heard Butch Davis put it like this. He said, you set your standard, you set the bar right here, man. And like, that's what you're going to recruit. So if you're under the bar, you're not going to get there, man. Like, I'm going to recruit over the bar. You see what I'm saying? Like, so when you set your standards and like, look at Georgia's standards, man. I mean, it's the cream of the crop. So you're going to recruit higher than that every year. And it's the kind of, I think it's kind of good that you tell a kid, like, look, you might want to look somewhere else. I mean, because instead of them sitting there not playing, they can go have success somewhere else and maybe end up in the NFL, maybe do whatever. But at least you're telling them, like, look, this is the standard. Here's the bar. And we're going to recruit higher and higher. And so, Coach Davis said that, and that made total sense to me, man. I was like,
well, I think too, like, I think the thing that I think a lot of fans don't recognize or realize is a lot of these guys on this list, and there's one on the list, I'm not going to say who it is because I'm not telling any of the business that I do know. There's a guy on this list who told Kirby about 2 or 3 weeks ago that he was going to transfer. And Kirby said, I get it, man. I understand. I want you to be a part of the team, help us through the SEC championship game, keep practicing. Because he was a guy that was a rotational guy that played some. And, look there. My pops is chiming in, Big Ed. Every team saying NIL Storm, Georgia will be okay. Exactly right. Drop the mic on what my daddy said. That's right. But there's a guy on this list who told Kirby a few weeks ago, hey, I'm transferring. This is why. And Kirby said, I get it. I will help you find the right landing spot for you. So there's some guys that they'll fight tooth and nail to keep. And if they want to keep them NIL, that'll happen. But there's other guys on here who they recognize. Like, look, and whatever reason, you're not, you got a chance to play somewhere else where you're not going to have it here. Yeah. We're going to support that and help you with it. So not many of these situations catch Kirby and his staff by surprise. There was one last year that I knew about that I heard from some reliable sources that tried to come in, catch Kirby by surprise, and kind of force his hand with NIL stuff and was told, well, you know what? There's the door. You can leave now.
You ain't going to leverage me. Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah. I think, Fran Brown also going to Syracuse. He's brought Jackson Meeks with him. I think Mekhi Muse is also, I think he got an offer from.
I saw he said Tech offered, Syracuse offered. Yep. So look, that's a walk-on kid who's not going to get a scholarship at Georgia, by the way.
Right.
Not until in the spring. He's not guaranteed a scholarship. He may get one if there's open spots in the spring, but he doesn't know. Is he supposed to stay here and keep paying for his school? And Georgia fans are like, well, give him a scholarship. Okay. Do you want to give him a scholarship, or you want to keep it open in case a 5-star outside linebacker wants to sign? Yeah. You're going to keep that spot open until the windows are closed and everybody's signed up. And if there's open spots, walk-ons get a scholarship then. That's the way it is. Yeah. So, that's no disrespect. A lot of guys we love. Some of our best friends on the team were walk-ons. That's the way it is.
Let's exit Georgia, but I think where it hurts the college game, man, is like lower level schools. Like, okay, so you get a guy, sign him, you groom him, he gets good. What's he gonna do? He's gonna try to transfer to a bigger school. And I mean, I think that's who it really hurts is like a East Carolina or NC State or somebody who they recruit a kid, they groom him, he has success, and then he's gonna transfer to somewhere else. Like, that's where I think it hurts. It don't hurt Georgia. I mean, it don't hurt Alabama. It don't hurt, the big schools. It hurts the lower level schools because they put something into a kid and then he wants to leave and go better.
Yep.
Yeah, but what's that hurt? It hurts the school. It's a pain in the neck to be a coach in college football. You couldn't pay me to coach college football, to be honest. It is such a grind, and I mean, you're staring down the barrel of a gun all the time. I guess, guys, I don't ever have a problem with a kid taking an opportunity that's best for them, right, and going to get paid. I will say I've struggled, and I think this is where a lot of fans are struggling too. Is I look at myself as I'm a Georgia guy, right? Like I would have done anything for the University of Georgia when I was a player there. I bled red and black. I would give my body for the university, for my teammates, et cetera. And I think one of the things that everybody's starting to realize is we're losing a little bit of that. And I'm not saying we're losing all of it, and we haven't lost all of it, but we're losing a little bit of that. And you see it right now. I mean, can you guys imagine when we were playing that if Fred Gibson or let's take Corey Phillips his senior year, right? Diehard Georgia guy, right? If he left when David Green got that job, or DJ Shockley, if he left and didn't wait on his time and went and played at Georgia Tech, like that would have been, we wouldn't have, that's something I couldn't have fathomed back then, right? So it just speaks to how much college football has changed. And really, it's the minor leagues, right? And it ain't going to change.
Nope.
And by the way, one last thing. Don't worry about the University of Georgia. Kirby Smart has proven himself. There's a lot of other guys on that staff that have proven themselves. The university's proven themselves and how much they're backing the football program and really all of athletics. And Josh Brooks is doing a great job. I don't worry about Georgia, and I don't worry about us being able to be relevant moving forward. Now, winning national championships every year, hey, great. We've won 2 in a row. I don't think, everybody needs to understand how difficult that is, right? And how special this 29-game run was. But look, you start for a Georgia defense or a Georgia offense, you got a great opportunity to play in the NFL, and every quality football player in America wants that opportunity. So we're going to get our guys, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, the only thing I would have had a problem with is the guys not playing in the bowl game. Like, you choose not to play in the bowl game, you better not let me catch you in the street now. Right. I mean, like, I couldn't imagine.
To an extent.
Hard, and then you're not playing in the bowl game. Oh, yeah.
I get it, but I don't want Brock to play in the bowl game. Like, not Josh Brock. I'm talking about Brock Bowers. Like, yeah. Come on, man. Like, call it a career, bro. Like, you've been the greatest we've had since Pollock to wear the red and black. So, yeah, I don't. It was a different world. Society's different now.
The coaches aren't going to put Brock in a bad situation. Yeah. Like, I mean, they're not going to in the bowl game. Like,
can't control that. You can't control that in a football environment. You can't. I mean, you can't. You those things, you get exposed every single play.
The thing, and we're running up on the time. We try to cut off. Bobby, if you got anything that you want to talk about, it can. But like the thing, and y'all talked about it, right? I mean, the thing that I think these guys are going to miss out on so much is the community and the relationships and the networking connections. It's being able to text 3 of your fellow fat boys at 3:00 on Wednesday afternoon and say, "Hey, what's the chance that you idiots would jump on tonight?" Bobby, we were all at the apartment one time in college. We were watching some show. We were just talking, just chit-chatting like the boys do in college. And a commercial comes on. It was like one of those commercials where they had like Snicker bars, like being made. It shows like the nougat coming slowly through and then the peanuts laying on it. And then the caramel just drizzling on top and then going through a chocolate fountain. We were all talking like, hey, man, you can believe what that?
Who wants Domino's?
Hey! Speaking of that network, though, speaking of that network, the thing that you're talking about, here's a great example that as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to go watch 2 of our former teammates coach for a state championship. Ben Reeves, the head coach at Milton, and Terrence Edwards is his wide receiver coach.
That's awesome.
And everybody that's a Georgia alum is a Milton Warhawk or whatever their mascot is. We're all Milton fans tonight, right? And rooting for them to win a state championship because Ben was a walk-on wide receiver. Great dude, is a head coach of a 7A high school football team. And Terrence is still, to this day, because Brock's not going to break his record, the most prolific receiver in the history of University of Georgia football. And we're going to go cheer these guys on and hope they win a state championship in their next phase of life.
I just wish people could have heard Pollock yell at the TV on game day, man. He ends up on game day. Like, you remember how Pollock used to yell at Corso and on game day. Then he ends up on game day.
There it was until they let him go.
You remember he used to be like, Herb Street, you dummy. He'd be yelling at the TV.
He's always had an opinion, boys. Problem is he's often right.
Yes, he is more often than not. So, well, hey,
that about wraps us.
Are we there?
Unless you want to talk about barbecue, I mean, we're out of time. But if you want to, you got any? Did you go anywhere this week? Did you? Have you guys had barbecue? Have you guys had his barbecue before?
No, I still haven't been invited to do barbecue. Not once. I was shocked I got invited.
Hey, listen, we had Tanner Hill barbecue before Tanner Hill was cool.
No, I know.
Remember that big old field party that we had in Wrightsville?
No,
Whoa, sorry, that's probably not for the air. But we had a really good get together down in Wrightsville, Georgia, and Ed Tanner taught us how to throw down on that massive gas grill, which may have been Russ. Was that number one of one for Tanner Hill barbecue?
That's the original. Old Trusty.
That's the original.
Yeah.
We had a pig picking that night.
Yes, we did.
Dan doesn't remember it, but we had a pig picking that night.
I do. No, I had to take a nap. Don't get mad because I had to take a nap. But I'll never forget when y'all took me to barbecue. You're like, this is barbecue. And I was like, what is this? This isn't barbecue.
Dan's from North Carolina. He's from the Sandhills of North Carolina, to be more specific. They put this super runny sauce on there that doesn't stick to anything and runs straight off of it. And it's
whatever you can drink.
Well, for the record, I do appreciate all these guys. I would have them on, but yeah, last week, one of the QB1s at Georgia, Jake Fromm, was in town, and he went with me, and I figured out the key to getting huge views on social media.
Okay,
having somebody with a huge audience and following do it with you. So Jake Fromm came on, he shared it, and that was good. Went to Cabin Creek up in Nicholson. So yeah, I've got a spot, by the way. I've got a spot in Canton that is supposedly like top notch. So it's on the horizon.
Hey, Canton's 15 minutes from Cartersville. If you're headed there, I'll meet you there.
Hey, for the record, you're inviting quarterbacks to eat barbecue. You think they know how to eat?
They do not.
Well, actually, there's one that does.
Greeny was on your show, and he had a tucked-in shirt.
Like Greeny's a professional eater.
He is. That's true.
He wanted to dip his brisket in cream corn. So
I had Tyson on the. He didn't like anything. He's like, I don't eat that. I don't eat that. I don't eat that.
That's why he weighs 135 pounds.
Well,
hey, but listen, we started out giving running backs some shade. We give them some love. That 97-yard screenplay at LSU in 2003 to this day,
and
one of the best plays in the history of Georgia football, all made by TB.
Oh, he tore it up there too, man.
Yeah,
boy can run.
Hey, I appreciate you guys coming on. One of our college friends, Alex Razors, checking in the comments down there. We appreciate that. So, man, we had some good times together. The best part about this is we will all text and tell each other all the stupid things that they did or should have said tonight when we get off of here. These are my brothers. I love every one of them. I appreciate them more than you guys can know just from coming across on here. Glad they came on, and maybe we'll do it again. But, yeah.
Man, we love you, buddy.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Be sure to check out Dawgs and Hawgs every single Wednesday night, 8 p.m. We're right here, same place, same time. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe to the channel. And as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.